How was the Taranaki country game? Well, I guess that's one of the things we'll be talking about today. Ashwin, here we are on the Super Rugby AU final, Mitre 10 Cup round 2 and Farah Palmer Cup round 3 review.
I thought you were going to say, here we are on the couch. But
we're not on the couch because
over there, no.
We're
on office chairs. Ain't like this. Like we're on a porch and doing whittling.
Whatever. So, welcome everybody to the show. This is obviously the crazy show of the week we have on a Sunday evening when it's all just been way too much. But yeah, we'll go through all that rugby action. What's that? Something like 14 games.
Okay, I believe you.
Absolutely nuts. So clearly, we haven't seen all the games in their entirety, folks. So some of them will just be giving you quick updates as to what the score was.
And he has to remind me what games are anyway. I've seen a lot of games, but I was just saying before we came on here, it's like, I can't remember anything, so I'm getting old.
You're getting... What do you mean getting?
Yeah. I got a monthly before I get old.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. I've got, so I was at 3 different grounds this weekend. So I was at the FMG Stadium for the Waikato game versus North Harbour. Then I jumped in the car and zoomed down the motorway, not the motorway here in New Zealand, to Rotorua to catch the end of Bay of Plenty versus Waikato, and then follow that up with Bay of Plenty versus Southland. And then today I was up in Eden Park for the
He was at Eden Park today, just for reminder.
Auckland versus Counties and Auckland versus Wellington. So
how can you catch the end of the game down Rotorua?
Because I arrived with only 10 minutes left.
Really?
Yeah.
You arrived with 10 minutes left
of the Farah Palmer Cup game.
Oh, right, okay. I was thinking, hang on, no way, you have plenty of time to get down there for. It's only an hour down the road.
And then I watched the whole of the
right.
So
there we go.
So lots. I've been around the grounds. Ashwin's been on his sofa watching games. I've watched a couple on the computer as well. So yeah, it's been busy. Not as busy as last weekend where I made 7 games. But,
yeah. Slacking, isn't he?
Slacking, yeah, absolutely. But I couldn't actually fly down to the South Island for the Friday night game, unfortunately. Shame.
If there is somebody that wants to sponsor Paul so that he can get down to the South Island for the South Island game, hit us up. Let us know. DM us. Get in the messages.
Absolutely.
We'll take that.
PEBaines, BAINS, @gmail.com.
Yeah. Or just give me your bank account number.
Or, hey, you can become a supporter of the channel at patreon.com/driving mall. And yeah, if suddenly some point we're getting thousands of dollars a month through there, then maybe, just maybe, I can fly down those 2 games. Anyway, that's
Friday night.
A good night for football. Really? I was going to start off with the Super Rugby AU first on Saturday night.
Okay, sure.
It was the final, the big game of the weekend. It's Heidi Ho. You're supposed to say
Heidi Hi.
It's Heidi Hi first, and you reply with Heidi Ho. Jeez, nocturnal rights. Just get right around, please. Anyway, it's like knock jokes where you go, who's starting off the joke with who's there? Never mind. I'll be honest, I didn't see the Super Rugby AU final because, or at least I only saw that the last 10 minutes. I was driving back from Rotorua. I thought that the momentum over the last couple of weeks was with the Reds, but a couple of injuries coming into this game.
You might want to go over the injuries first because, I didn't know who the injured players were. I forgot these. I put him on the spot. Hospital pass. I'm always into them.
I've forgotten who they were now. I just remember them. I remember that being some of the comments from people like Reg Roberts, who is on the on Twitter. Reg Roberts was mentioning there. Look, they had got some players were missing. I'm trying.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, while he's looking up that, then I did see the game. It was probably a classic tight battle, really, a finals battle. I wouldn't say it was supremely free-flowing. The Brumbies probably making the better decisions with what ball they did have versus the Reds, and really sort of the eras coming into the Reds games. So I think they cost them. I mean, when you look towards that, the final 10, which Paul saw, and that 20, in fact, even half hour, the Reds were sort of quite deep in the Brumbies half for most of that, but they just couldn't convert. Even the commentator saying, look, the Brumbies aren't going to win this game because they were ahead at stage, I think, by 5, maybe a bit more. But they said the Reds aren't going to win this game if they don't score again. Well, they didn't need to, but that was because the Reds kept making mistakes. There was one with one of the driving mauls, I remember, right towards the end, and it's just like, yeah, look, they just needed more control, more composure, patience, and all those cliched words. And they probably could have actually tipped the Brumbies over, but yeah, probably just lack of because it is a young squad. The Reds, a supremely young squad. So I suppose it's that made quite a difference in the end.
Yeah, and for a Brumbies team that really, during the first part of the season before lockdown, we were like, okay, they're clearly the best team in Australia. They really haven't hit their straps since. I mean, look, they got the results. They topped the table deservedly, but they weren't putting teams away in the way that we thought they would do.
Yeah.
And I guess again in this,
and even in this,
so they did 5 point game.
Yeah, and they did score their classic try from a rolling maul, but they only won. They didn't do it multiple times, so that was a bit strange too. So it's like they had the opportunity to, but then, you go back even with Rugby Gold when they started. Those first few rounds, they got quite a lot of tries from the old driving maul from 5 meters out, kicking to the corner.
No, absolutely. Yeah, they did.
Just have to digress for a second there. So we've got the accommodation in the South Island sorted. We just need airfares now, okay?
Yeah, well, we've got accommodation now sorted. I think I can probably get one of the. I reckon Tasman would put us up. We've got a place in Dunedin now.
Yeah.
And nocturnals. And I'm sure that Cornflake will put me up in Invercargill. So that's 3 out of the 4 locations.
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought, James O'Connell was standing too deep, but it's almost like because he's quite a. I remember early in the season, I thought he's going pretty well, and it's just like, you sort of might. I mean, it's very long odds, but could look likely in a gold jersey, but he stands so deep because he needs that time because he's actually really slow at executing.
He's someone who seems to blow hot and cold. He has some games where I think
he's going to break into a bit of Katy Perry.
He has some games where you kind of like, oh yeah, now I understand why Australians are so kind of wrapped on him because he takes it to the line, puts in some wonderful passes, really runs the game well, and then there are other games where he just goes. Like the wet weather game against him and Tamua was an absolute horror of a game. Where neither fly half could actually control the game. He's an attacking flair fly half. He's not a controlling one, and unfortunately that means that some games when he's got front football, great. When he hasn't, can be a bit of a problem for him.
Especially standing deep.
Well, if you're gonna, but he's standing deep because he's getting slow ball.
Yeah, right.
That's one of these things. Sure. Whereas if he's getting front football, he's running onto it much more, taking much more to the line.
Yeah. He's getting slow ball, and he's even got Ruru as a halfback.
Oh dear! He's already jumped onto the last game of the weekend. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Anyway, I mean, well done by Brumbies. To chalk it up, they were going favourites at home and everything, and they got the job done. It's quite funny watching the commentators sheepishly saying that it's the first time that the Brumbies have won the Super Rugby trophy since 1908. Because it was a real Super Rugby competition. Yeah, sure.
1908 or 2008?
Yeah, 1908.
Exaggeration.
For a fact.
It's
great that our listeners and viewers get that.
And I don't. Yes. Now look, it's not clearly just like the Crusaders aren't necessarily the Super Rugby champions. Whoever comes out, the South African piece won't be either. But it is a trophy, right? It's better than nothing.
Got something in the trophy cabinet, not dust.
You can only beat the teams, the players. You can only beat the teams you put up against at the end of the day. Yeah. So well done to them.
Saying that, like we talked about this a few weeks ago. When I think when we were still in round robin phase of Rugby Gold, and you can see. I actually think that we've talked about. There's enough players in that Rugby Gold competition to make a good Wallabies team. Maybe first five still got a bit of a question mark on them around experience, a good experienced player. But when when you look across the board, they've got some good players. They need 23 guys for a match day 20. Team.
Well, you've got players such as Nazarani being left out.
Yeah.
Look, there's definitely a
what a shocker! Sorry, but that's a shocker. Anyway,
there's clearly enough players for a decent World League squad. Now, look, as you say, it's not an experienced one. But one of the things we've been saying about Australia is that their under 20s, under 21s, their high school stuff over the past 2 or 3 years has been much stronger. So it's not going to be an experienced Wallabies side. But look, it's good for the next Rugby World Cup or the one after. It's really good to see the young talent coming through.
Yeah.
I think it's really good actually that we play against each other in competitive games rather than going up against experienced
teams and getting
thumped, or having to travel all the way to South Africa, being totally jet lagged, walking onto pitch going which way is up and getting thumped as well. So look, I think Super Rugby AU has been a good thing for Australian rugby for next year.
Yes, absolutely. And we just don't know what form Super Rugby is going to take next year.
Who knows?
Who knows? But that's for another show.
That is for another show. And
driving more on Monday nights at the moment.
At the moment, yes. we may be in for a bit of a schedule shake-up, folks. We don't, but not yet. So yes. So I think we've got a decent a good Bledisloe Cup series coming up. I'd
like to think. I still think, as I said, the only question marks is around that first 5, and it's probably around experience rather than actually ability. And we know that the All Blacks, if they get an inexperienced first 5, they will go and put that first 5 under pressure. Well, that'd be the game part of the game plan. We put them under pressure. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that's It's going to be interesting to see how Dave really selects his side, etc. But we're looking forward to that. But anyway, that's not the show for tonight. Tonight we're supposed to be talking about rugby. So let's wind back and talk
get in our DeLorean. We're going to get in our DeLorean and get back in time.
And let's go back and we'll move to Mitre 10 Cup and we'll go back to Friday night.
Friday night's a great night for football.
Is it?
I know. I remember a song like that.
I don't remember a song like that at all. So Friday night, Tasman versus Northland. Boy, bit of a wake-up call for sorry. Really?
Oh, it's just disappointing, watching that game. And it's like, we know what the result was going to be. Tasman was going to win the game. We know that. But I'm just disappointed with the way that Northland approached that game in terms of, just they're a bit more composure, and instead of just willy-nilly sort of throw the ball around types thing at times in particular. They just kept getting them under pressure.
Yeah, but I think part of that is that they went behind, right? So they were chasing the game.
Yeah, but
so for these games to be more interesting to watch, you need the underdog to have a good start in the first 20.
Yeah, true.
They didn't. They were 12-0 down by 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And from there on inwards, they knew they were chasing the game. So you had players like, I think, again, unfortunately, I don't think that Rennie Ranger had a good game. I think he was trying to. He didn't have Jack Goody there. He was trying to put the team on his shoulders, trying to carry the team, and then trying to do too much, and then he didn't come on. Simple things well, as they.
Yeah, I mean, how many teams are going to learn? Nocturnal Rights talking about the old kicking. It's just like we'll come to a few other games too where kicking was just atrocious. It's just like you're trying to put your team in trouble, but the kicking by Northland, you don't. I mean, counties did it the week before to Tasman as well, right? You don't give them the ball like that. If you're going to kick, it has to be accurate and it has to be to the right places on the ground.
Yeah,
you don't just aimlessly kick down the ground.
Now, there's going to be a big difference next week because you're not going to be kicking to Reese, Jordan, because they're going to be off with the All Blacks.
Yeah.
So you've only got Talia and David Hurley to kick to.
Yeah. When do they announce the extra players?
I've not heard when.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything there either.
Because I wouldn't expect the extra players are needed for the Bledisloe Cup games in New Zealand.
But I wouldn't be surprised, the way the All Blacks operate. Hey, look, 50 players to Japan. That they pick the 10 or 12 players, whatever it is, and then bring them into camp. I mean, you're probably possibly looking at losing Habili coming into camp.
I don't think so. I don't think the All Blacks like Habili.
Okay.
Why?
I'd say it like that. He could be watching and get upset.
No, I love him. I think he's great. Please marry me, David. There we go. You are wonderful. No, I look, fantastic player. In any other country, he's in the match day 15.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, the All Blacks coaches don't like him.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, he would have been in the squad much more frequently. I think he's a fantastic player, very versatile, perfect for this kind of situation where he can play centres, he can play first five if needed, can play the back three positions. Perfect for an extra for a World Cup player. This kind of stuff. Yep. You think that they'd love it, but no, for some reason they don't. They don't rate it.
So, but just going back to the Talia and then Havili at the back for them, but I don't. You can kick back to Talia. I think you can kick back to Talia safely. He's a power player, so he's going to run it straight up. He's not a twinkle toe or slide through gaps like a Will Jordan, or the twinkle toes like Stephen Reese. So he's the power player, more sort of taking it forward. Sort of thing. I don't expect him to twinkle toes return the ball.
No, and it's not. Okay, he would have had again Jordan and Reese running off his shoulder.
He'd be exactly. Yeah, the power player that takes it into the tackle, draws two guys, and then offloads to Jordan off his shoulder, and then he puts in the three.
He shoots from downtown. So we're going to have it's going to be interesting to see how Tasman go from here on. I personally thought the hit on Gregory was a cheap shot. When he went off injured after that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's there. That should have been more than what happened in that game. Didn't even get a penalty.
Didn't even get a penalty.
No.
The commentators are like, he's allowed to hold his ground, but he's not allowed to put the shoulder in. Exactly.
So he leans over and puts his shoulder in.
He puts his shoulder in.
And he takes the player out. So there was a net effect out of it as well. It's just like, what are the officials watching?
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Good point in here. Now I'm not going to name names, but
he's naming names.
No, but you put here that the entry point is not being policed like before, and sitting next to the various coaches box with empty grounds means you get to hear every single word they shout. And entry is when they're shouting a lot.
It's disappointing though, because we saw the effects, and then actually going back to the rugby goal match, that was actually the I know Cornflakes like calling him Angus Carden, and he did give a card in the game. This is officiating at the breakdown was awesome. But, and we saw with our own Super Rugby at Aotearoa, the breakdown and being policed, especially early days, and the effect that it had on the game was positive. And it's just like, and now we're going to Mitre 10 where it's getting willy-nilly, and especially in the last few games we've seen that in particular, where it's just like the policing is just a joke, and players are coming in from all angles. It's disappointing.
Now, on defence you sometimes get called in it, but on attack you don't. Generally, is how it goes. Attackers on the whole can come in from the side, which is not good. It's that, to be honest with you. And let's be honest, one of the things, it's a bit like about 3 seasons ago, I think, they actually started policing putting the ball in straight at the scrum for about 3 games. And then they stopped, or 3 weeks, and then they stopped. It's kind of like what we've got here again. They went hard with it at the beginning of Super Rugby. Yeah. Everyone's like, a few whistles, and everyone's like, we actually quite like this.
We like it.
And then they've slackened off again, which is just really
which is disappointing, isn't it? And then the things that it's just like, when the players change, and then they obviously they'll try it on. You ping them, then we're still going with that, and no, we won't. And like you look at the way that you put a ball into the scrum these days is you go to your teams are on the right. I hope that's showing up on the right. I'm pointing to my right anyway. And so you stand to the left of the tunnel and you go put it into the middle. And therefore it goes into the middle, but obviously you're putting it on the angle and it comes back towards your hooker.
Because they've changed the laws now so that your left shoulder has to be in line with the middle. So you're already over your side of the scrum. Well, and then you feed it.
No, because today I saw this isn't having a pair and I just sort of say, this is like, you can see he's standing on the opposition side of halfway of the tunnel and then feeding it on the angle. So it's like what they do at the lineouts too. They do that at the lineouts too. They'll stand on the opposition side a little bit, and then they'll throw it. So you're angling it. It's going down the middle, but it's on a trajectory towards your side.
And TJ's one might be actually again one of the things we're seeing a lot at scrum times is basically the fight of the little men. But both scrum halves trying to trying to fight and block each other to get around, which is
The halfback has to stay behind the ball. He can't go past the opposition halfback either.
really.
Well, he's not supposed to beat him.
Well, okay, they do that, right? So they get around and say, "Hey, I'm behind the ball. I'm standing. I'm allowed to stand it." So, but they're doing it. So so you end up in this battle. So part of what TJ might be doing is, if I stand further their side, I'm forcing him further away, which gives my number 8 more time to pick up the ball and go.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about an attack. Sorry, I was thinking defense.
So
when he goes around trying to push the halfback out.
Oh yeah, but so that's why he's doing. So the other halfback can't get round it. So so these are all these minor things.
Micro moments.
That quite add up to make things better.
Anyway, we're going to roll along, eh?
True. So Tasman, big Northland, no surprise. Really, let's be blunt.
Shocked, not shocked.
Not shocked. Moving on then from that one, Waikato versus North Harbour, 41-19. Sorry, I didn't tell you. Tasman was 54-21. 41-19 for Waikato versus North Harbour.
I was surprised. I was shocked because I thought that North Harbour would be better. But in saying that, how well is that Waikato team travelling? The week before against Wellington really did clean them up a bit, and then really sort of quite comfortable enough against Harbour.
Okay, where Waikato are going well at the moment is with the combination of Damon McKenzie and Anton Brown with Quinta Paya just basically cutting open back lines, which is a major thing by Wellington.
Cops up to that, eh?
You got to wonder. Yes, Waikato, fantastic first 2 weeks. How are they going to cope without Dave McKenzie and Anton Brown's magic? They've got some good players coming, but they've not got players of that level.
To me, it feels like there's a base being laid by the forwards, though. And the other thing is that you've left out, I think, quite a magic find for them in Xavier Rowe, the halfback, right? And he's very energetic, and he's always in the game. He's popping up. Very Aaron Smith almost, you might say. Whereas Aaron Smith doesn't necessarily he's always there to get the ball distribution. That's the key thing. He might snipe every now and then, but Xavier Rowe seems to be like sniping quite a bit as well as getting to the right.
Yeah, so Xavier Rowe 2 tries in 2 games. Or did he get 2 in this game actually? Maybe it's 3 in 2 games. But anyway, yeah, definitely, he scored at least 2. The funny thing is that Xavier Rowe was considered the second best halfback in this squad coming into the season. So
the first pair. No, who was the first?
The guy coming off the bench, another young guy.
Another young guy. Okay.
Really much the same as Xavier does. But Xavier's got a little bit more experience.
Right.
And Xavier's really been showing that he's done well. He also went down to Taranaki to come back to Waikato, which is home province, playing really, really well. But they don't lose anything when he goes off because the next guy comes on also plays well. Doesn't have the same experience. Perhaps a
young fella.
Perhaps a slight drop, but not much. You're right. Yeah, good forward pack, good quick delivery.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get results. So it helped that they jumped out to a 26-0 lead. And once you got that far, Harbour didn't have a chance coming back. Sam Ward was not happy after that game. Head over to New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook page to hear his post-match interview. He was very good. But Sam has been fantastic. He's one of those guys I can always get an interview with. For this one was the first time seeing me go. What are you going to ask me? And it was kind of like, well, okay, yeah, he's angry. He was expecting some tough questions. That's not my style of interviewing, as you'll see. But yeah, he was not happy. They were not happy with how they performed in that game. Let's be honest. So big win there. I was then in the car driving down to Rotorua, so I missed the Ranfurly Shield game, which was
cracker.
Absolute.
Yeah, game of the round, I suppose, isn't it? Really? I mean, Taranaki, they got some good bounce of the ball happening for them to get their three tries. I mean, I forgot the young fella's name that scored that first try, but was it a pass from Lachlan Bashir, probably player of I think it was player of the match. But a ball that the young fella tries to get his hands on. No, realizes, but how good is this? The thinking of the lad. See, I'm getting old. I'm calling him a lad. The thinking of the lad. He realizes he's not going to get his hands to it, so he pulls his hands away and kicks the ball again. And then he gets the rub of the green and it bounces away from Bridge, I think it was. No, it was Josh Mackay. Bounces a little bit away from him and he's able to get in the hands and run away and score. So,
I get why you can't remember the young guy's name.
Yeah. What? Kipkins.
Ratu, Mata, Baku, Kni, and then the rest of the names not on the screen.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
That's why, yes.
But anyway, so so they got some good tries in early, and Canterbury did look a bit frazzled. I thought they lost a bit of structure. Even Richie Moana, sort of not making mistakes, but just the execution of some of the skill set, which we know, during Super Rugby is just so pinpoint, and he was off on his execution of a few things as well. So, but as expected, as we know, the Canterbury side comes back into the game. I honestly thought Canterbury were going to roll over the top of Taranaki in that second half, because I made a comment online, I can't remember if it was Twitter or Facebook, and it's just like, it just didn't feel like the Taranaki defence had enough speed, and that they did seem quite slow, and the defence wasn't coming up. They're actually being quite passive and letting Canterbury come to them. And obviously, you let a Canterbury side come to you, and you see this with Tasman, obviously with the two Crusaders franchises and the way they operate. They get meters forward. So generally what you're wanting, your defence comes up quick and you stop them at the advantage line, if not before the advantage line. Well, Canterbury's getting to the advantage line and making 2, 3, 4 meters out past it, so getting that roll-on effect. And it sort of felt like it was a matter of time, but somehow, I honestly, watching the game, don't know how Taranaki stayed in that game, probably off the back of Lachlan Bashir turnovers. It was just like, it felt like, even as a, obviously, you're supporting the underdogs in these scenarios, and you're sort of waiting 2, 3 ruck go by, is like, ooh, Bashir should be free to come in and snaffle the next one. So yeah, it was like that. So yeah, it was quite a surprise. And then the classic Shield game, Canterbury did get in front in the end, and then Geordie comes along and bangs one over from about 40, 48, 46 meters out to get them a couple of points ahead, or a point ahead. And then it was like, to finish the game with Canterbury basically 10 out from the line and putting pressure on, and the Taranaki boys were able to get that turnover, and a little bit of, I actually was saying to Aiden, my son, while we're watching the game, take the scrum. There was about a minute and a half left. Take the scrum. The scrum takes a minute to set, right? These days, but it takes a minute to scrum. You've got 30 seconds to basically try and kill off.
Yep.
And no, they tapped the ball. We're waiting for a kick into touch, and they tap the ball. Bowden Barrett passes it, and they do, I don't know, about 8. That last minute and a half seemed to go a lot longer that way. And they went phase after phase, and finally ball out the back, and Bowden Barrett kicks it down to.
To be fair, there has been some questionable decision making in a number of games this weekend.
Yep.
And that sounds like one of them.
Was that the kick?
What did you say? Scrum or kick it out? Taking the.
The scrum was the scrum, because the Naki scrum seemed to be pretty much on.
Yeah. So tap and go there. Yeah. Not okay. Look, the result worked right. Okay. It came to they but not necessarily the best choice really. To do that.
No, I mean, like, to be honest, when I was calling for the scrum, but I didn't, when they took the tap, I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. It's just that you're going to go through those phases, and you have to be very accurate, right?
Yep.
You get one wrong, and it's a penalty going the other way. You're just going to collapse a little bit too early, and you're screwed. You got a penalty. So they got it very accurate. They did get it right. There was no questionable, that they've gone down and sealed the ball off. So I think that was pretty good.
So moving on from that one, then just the kind of point, Taranaki will have to defend against Otago next weekend without the Barrows. So that's going to be an interesting one. Can they hold on to it, or
Who's going to kick that 50-meter penalty?
Will they lose it on their first defence like they have done so many times before?
Have they? Oh, I was not aware of that.
I'm pretty sure they've lost on the first a couple of times before.
Okay.
So be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, Otago took it off. Gone blank. Who did they take it off? They took it off.
Otago.
Waikato.
Yeah.
a couple of seasons ago.
Right, yeah.
And
So
then,
they broke a drought.
held it over the summer and lost it first game as well. So we could be seeing the Open Shield on a bit of a merry-go-round, which I think is a good thing.
Oh, we rugby fans in New Zealand generally like to see the Ranford Shield go around. Yeah. And it's funny, you basically
one or two defenses is nice, but get
yeah,
beyond that.
exactly. Yeah. And the interesting thing there is basically, although 3 centres that it seems to get stuck in.
Yeah, which is why we get.
Yeah.
So basically, lose it before you get to play Auckland, Canterbury, or Wellington. That's basically the idea. Is what you need to do. Yeah, don't let Auckland, Canterbury, or Wellington.
Well, to be fair,
title challenge.
To be fair, it hasn't been stuck in Auckland for a while. I think when Pat Lam was coach, was the last time it was stuck in Auckland, but. Definitely, Auckland, Waikato, and Canterbury are the ones. Yeah.
Waikato.
Yeah, Waikato. Yeah. Waikato's actually had a history of good rains, basically, or having it for over the summer in particular and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm just trying to bring this up.
So I'll do some research while I move on to the next game. So Bay of Plenty versus Southland here. 14 all at half time. Look, Southland really showing that they have improved this year. They beat Hawke's Bay last weekend in a fighting game here with Bay of Plenty. Now, Bay of Plenty perhaps not looking as strong as they did last year when they got promoted. Obviously, that loss against Taranaki, but we've just seen that Taranaki can turn over Canterbury. So clearly, look, the Naki better than we were perhaps expecting. So Bay of Plenty. So Southland, keeping themselves in it. In fact, we're leading in that first half. Triple T, dummy and go was what got them into that yellow card to which meant that we got Jason Rutledge, the geriatric the player he's not as old as
Geriatric.
God, he's okay. The oldest player ever to have played super.
He's actually the oldest.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Definitely in the professional era anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So
not finding the results of the information I was wanting to find.
Okay. And look, and they were right down to the end. They were bashing away at the Bay of Plenty line and could have won this one. So great to come out of this. So they've come out of this now with a win and a losing bonus point in the first 2 games. Southland tracking well, comparatively. Okay.
As Paul said, and I agree, is that we don't want to turn the show tonight into ref bashing, but oh boy, Southland's got to feel ripped off for the last quarter, or when they were doing a driving maul and Gildenhuys has detached, come around and grabbed the ball carrier off the back of the maul, and it's just like, oh Jesus, right in front of the referee, and how do you miss that? And it's just like, they had started to get momentum forward towards the line. It was really disappointing. Because you got to feel for Southland. I mean, I think everybody sort of feels sorry for Cornflake and having to support the Southland boys, and so I get them behind them, and it's just like, they performed well. They defended so stoutly against Bay of Plenty, bashing away at their line, and they finally get that opportunity at the other end of the field, and to get a disappointing call like that, and it was so obvious that he's detached and reattached onto the ball carrier at the back of the scrum. Ball, sorry.
Yep. We've got a special thing for you now. It's going to hand you over to Sam Kane. Oops.
Here we are post-match after the Bay of Plenty and Southland game. How are you finding it being back in Mitre Cup Rugby, training with the guys and enjoying the perhaps a less or the smaller team and a bit less stress and just enjoying the rugby?
Yeah, it's been good after, I suppose I had, felt like 6 or 7 weeks off after Super Rugby. I got that damn concussion, so it's been awesome to be back with these boys. I've watched from the distance the last few years how well they've been playing and sort of what they've been building here at Bay of Plenty, and it's pretty nice to be back living in the Bay and mixing it up with these boys. And we had a pretty hard-fought win tonight.
You did, and you got to captain for the game as well. So, your choice to take the 3 and get the lead. They decided not to take the 3 and go the corner, and that probably was, and in the end, the difference in what you say was a very tight and cagey affair.
Yeah, I think we had one early on with maybe about 20, 25 to go where we took the corner, and it didn't pan out, and then we got another sort of, I thought we rolled the dice there. The next ones we got the chance, or at least get in front first before we have another crack, and there wasn't much in it.
And it was a lot of kicking, like I say, very cagey. Neither side wanted to play in their own half. That's kind of because it's a bit wet out there, cold conditions, or just playing your right end is the best place to be.
Yeah, we looked at Southland last week, and they kicked the most out of any team in round one. So we just knew that they wanted to play in our end, and we thought we'll be patient and play the kicking game too. And I think we're also seeing a little bit more attendancy from Super Rugby Aotearoa with a little bit more kicking, and maybe that's what the difference was today.
Yeah, and having a Terry Black and Hollins Head, you've got two guys there who really can kick tactically and move you around the pitch. So it must be nice as a captain having the faith in those sort of guys to do that for you.
Oh yeah, they are. When we get out on the field, I might have had the armband today, but those guys are running the cutter in terms of putting us in the right areas of the park and calling the shots. So two pretty experienced and classy players.
And perhaps a guy who's not had the opportunity at Super Rugby that he might have done in Chase Tia. Again, another guy very vocal out there, very much a leader, keep driving all the players forward as well. Another fantastic player at this level.
Yeah, he's the side's vice captain. I think he's closing in on 50 games for Pay Plenty. So he's given a lot to this jersey, and he's so passionate about it. He's a guy that brings a lot of energy out on the field. He's got a bit of X factor and can make something happen out of nothing. So Chase is a pretty important part of this team.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your time with the All Blacks, and hope you don't get too stir crazy in your hotel rooms over in Australia.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, hope you enjoyed that interview with Sam Kane. For more interviews, post-match interviews from the Mitre Cup and the Farah Cup, go check out New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook page. We've got a whole chunk of. I try and get I try and get 4 interviews per game. I don't always achieve that. Then
it's not meeting as KPIs. We'll have words later.
Sometimes players and coaches aren't available, but hey, there we go. Sam I am green eggs and ham. Yes, there we go. Us dads will know that Dr. Zeus story.
I think everybody knows that Dr. Zeus story.
Oh no, I didn't. Not tell Daddy. Anyway, moving on then after that. So I missed the next game because again I was driving. But we had after that we had the what do we have after that one? Manawatu 2. Oh no, we didn't. No more games after that. That was the last game of the night. But today we had.
Back the track up here. Which game was the last game of the night? Bay Plenty. Sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
By the way, looking up on the old log of wood history, I have maligned Taranaki. They generally get a few more than just the one. They actually have some quite good runs. So yeah, sorry.
8 and a 5 in there.
Yeah. So yeah, Sunday, Manawatu versus Otago. I missed this one because I was watching the Farah Cup game at Auckland. Did you catch this one?
No, I didn't.
No.
So we can't comment on that game at all, but we can give a score.
We can. 25-36. So Otago won that one. Look, Otago in my pre-season interview with their assistant coach was saying this is a season they said look, if the success for them is promotion, they don't get promoted, it's a failure season. This is Otago. They put a line in the sand. Clearly, getting that win there is a big improvement after losing to Auckland last weekend. You've got to remember, All Blacks aren't available after round 3, so we'll see how that kind of pans out. Obviously, they get a Ranfurly Shield challenge next weekend against Taranaki.
Without the Barrett brothers.
Without the Barrett brothers. And Vaea as well, who's also been a fantastic player for them.
And possibly, depending on what happens in the 10 to 12, they'll be losing Lachlan Boshier soon as well.
Potentially. The Nocturnal Red says, the real Otago showed up. The other game I missed because it's on at the same time as the Auckland Bunnies one was the Hawke's Bay versus Counties Manukau. 31-17 Hawke's Bay.
Again, didn't see that game either, but because they were on the same time there.
Yep.
So, but in saying that, you'd have to say Counties got to be disappointed. Either that, or they really sort of outperformed themselves against Tasman the week before.
There are certain teams that sort of do well against better opposition.
Drop their bundle against the.
So they do well defensively, and then they run out of steam.
Yeah.
And then when they come up against someone who is more their kind of level, where it's not just a purely defensive effort trying to get a score in, and they have to attack more, they can't necessarily do it. I think this is perhaps more Hawke's Bay fronting up back to the level that they should be at, considering that they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years. I would consider Hawke's Bay to be a better side on the whole than the Counties. Counties know Kieran Reid, for example, so losing that leadership. He was big for them last weekend against Tasman. I'm not surprised by that result That's back to me. That's what I think the level of those two teams are. And then, wow, Wellington.
I was just going to say, Jordan sort of saying that Manawatu gave away 2 intercept tries. And I think the scoreline, what was the scoreline in that Manawatu Otago game?
Manawatu Otago, 25-36.
Oh, so that's quite a big helping hand that the Turbos gave to Otago then.
So, yeah, they'll be hoping that they get Lamapi back from injury soon. Let's be honest. Obviously, the loss of Terry Black also big for Manawatu.
Oh, dear. What happened?
He's moved up to.
Yeah, of course, from Buckley. Yep.
Moving on then to the final game of the weekend, Auckland 21, Wellington 39. And basically, for me, so this one started out with Wellington giving up a discipline awful, three penalties in the first 3 minutes and a try for Auckland.
Lenny.
And then after that, basically the Wellington players, listening to the head coach after talking to the head coach after Leo, he basically look, the players got themselves together, realised you can't be giving away penalties, and cut that out. And then for the rest of the half, they just didn't give up. They only made like one mistake in the next 30 minutes.
They only made one mistake, but it's just like, right, the die was set for Auckland in terms of they played like a very inexperienced team right through that. I mean, that period in particular was very the impact of that was massive for the Auckland team because it was just poor rugby. I mean, like there was the massive gap in behind the defensive line that Wellington kept kicking into, and it's like they didn't solve it. And it's just like I've never been a big fan of Jordan Trainer anyway, and it's just like the player, the commentators referring to him as young, and it's just like, no, he's actually been around. He started in Waikato. He's had about 4 seasons with Auckland now, so he's been around. Must be about 25. He didn't fill the hole, and Wellington took massive advantage of that. Not Jordan's.
Trainer.
Not trainer.
Yeah,
so it's just like it's Jordan Jordan Clark talking about Jordan Trainer, and it's just like. He did. It's just like I don't understand what the selectors see in him.
He's 24. Had had a couple of seasons at Waikato. Been at Auckland since 2017.
He's got gas.
19, 20. Yeah. So look, he's been around for 6 seasons now.
Yeah, and it's just like he needed to be basically guiding his wingers and positioning himself for the for the kicking game that Wellington, because it wasn't an aerials assault. It was just a kicking game.
Yeah,
right?
It
wasn't an aerial assault. In fact, the Auckland back 3 were actually diffusing any aerial assault quite well in terms of bomb kicks. It was the fact of placed kicks in terms of into space.
But again, also another side of it also was in the breakdown where I think Wellington got the upper hand, having Karifi and Ardi
going in the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
But whatever you got 2 breakdown people against a back 3, including Akiriwani and Hosni Satutu, who are
look,
ball carriers.
And then, and I was just going to say, and with what Nocturnal's saying, disappointing the quality of the players, they really just didn't deliver at all today. The fact that they got themselves in a position to win the game in that second half, really, they did, but still, the experience with that's in that front 8. And they, just disappointing.
Yeah, but one of the problems Auckland also had was whenever they scored, they let Wellington back in to score pretty much straight back.
Yep.
Or at least camp in their half until they scored.
Yep.
So they didn't get their exits right. And that also was another part of it.
Yeah.
And Wellington took
advantage. They just took advantage that they had, right?
They took their opportunities, particularly in that first half, to pull out a lead.
Yeah.
And then whenever Auckland scored, they scored again. And Auckland, whilst you say they were in a position to win it, not if you're going to be giving away scores every time you score.
Well, not only that. Well, no, I'm going to disagree with you there because the fact is that even after the Hoskins Satutu brain explosion, Wellington, they only scored that last try because of the fact that Auckland then went into desperation mode, throwing the ball around all over the place, like extra desperation mode. So that's the only. So I felt that if Hoskins hadn't, if they just had to go for that scrum instead of the quick tap, there would have been a yellow card. They would have gone scrum again. There would have been a try or penalty try off the back of the scrum. You know, the formula is written by the red and black team from South Island. You just have to follow the damn thing.
But they were 11 points behind at that point. So but they scored just after half time. They allow a penalty to be scored against.
I get that. I get
that gap was always.
Oh, look, no, I get that. But we're talking about that last 30. The last 30, Wellington weren't in the game at all.
Oh, yeah, just defending the whole time.
Just defending on the time. And they weren't. And then the fact is that Auckland knew what they had to do, and they started to do it. They were playing the game in the right parts of the field, so they'd eliminated sort of that, not getting out of their territory. Mm-hmm. That's enabling the Wellington team to then get that quick score back again. So that was the thing. It's just like, it's just poor execution by the Auckland team. But I just want to say one thing: is the fact is that even in the successful years that Auckland's had over the last few years, their backline's never flowed. It's never flowed. I mean, you look at the Wellington tries that they scored. Deception, backline manoeuvres, creating space, and guys just running in untouched. You don't see that from an Auckland side. You'll see them score tries for sure, but they'll be going over in the tackle, barging over, or whatever sort of thing. But you won't see manipulation of a backline, an offensive pattern to break open a team. You look at the cross kick for West Houston, and it's just like, what the hell? Again with Jordan Trainer. What was he thinking? He's running on an angle and leaving West Houston out all by himself, and he's gaking a player that's already got Rico Ioane, who's, he's only an All Black. He's going to go assist Rico Ioane on the tackle instead of making sure he stays somewhere within the vicinity of Houston. It's poor execution all around. Yeah, no leadership, totally. TJ, nice guy. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was, there should have been a yellow card to Wellington. TJ's just not saying the right things to the ref to be able to get that yellow card out.
So a couple of interesting interviews coming up. I'm not posting them yet. We've got the two head coaches and also TJ Piranara. Not Biani. No, he didn't. He wasn't provided for interview.
Paul wouldn't have heard this. This was comical. I mean, please, no more James Parsons in the comments. Please, Sky Sport. Nice guy. Knows his rugby, but geez, he's trying to put you to sleep. But I think, I can't remember the head commentator's new guy, Dewey Pierce or something. Anyway, something must have really happened for TJ to blow up like that, because normally he doesn't blow up on a rugby field. Has he watched any rugby? TJ blows up on a rugby field constantly. That's what got the Hurricanes into problem, because he blows up on the rugby field. It's like, what are these guys watching? They're going to commentate on it.
TJ actually talked about that during the interview afterwards, post-match interview. So go do listen to that. He talks about how he talks and how he talks to refs and how he plays games. So Wellington, did a job on Auckland, particularly that first half, and then Auckland can get themselves back in.
Well, you have to sort of, just with Nocturnal at the 9 and 10, we'll never know whether we've got any good 10s in the city, because we have no good 9s. And it's just like, it's unfair to malign a 10 when he's getting slow service from his 9, right? And Ruru is basically dropped down the pecking order in the Blues in terms of, you had Finley, Christie, and then Sam Knock, which I'd say Christie 1, Knock 2, and Ruru's now the backup halfback if one of those guys gets injured. The reason is his pass is simply too slow. It's just the clearance of the ball out the back of the ruck, and also the option taking as well at times is wrong. But the big part is it's just this clearance from the back of the ruck is too slow. Right. He's got a massive defensive game.
We've got to move on. But very briefly, there is going to be an under-20s competition, north, south, east, west in Auckland, which is going to be on.
Anyway. Well, no. What I mean is that
north, south, east, west. It's going to be on Sky Extra. So if you want to see what young club players are coming through, check that out. For young club players coming through for Auckland, check that out. It should be a cracker.
So clubs in the east getting together, clubs in the west coming together, etc., etc.
Yes. So moving on then to the Farah Cup. here for this one. Must admit, not seen many of these games. I've been at 2 of them, but the rest, unfortunately, I've been driving around missing. There's only so much rugby you can actually see physically in a weekend. Wellington beat Hawke's Bay 67-17. Look, that Southern Division really looks like it's going to be between Canterbury and Wellington. So those two should finish 1 and 2, I think, in that.
Canterbury will finish
group.
1 after that.
Well, we'll see, because after that we have the crossover games, and we'll get on to counties in a second, who are tracking fantastically. Canterbury 85, Otago Spirit 10. Again, unsurprising. Canterbury and Wellington basically will beat all the other teams in that Southern Division by quite a few, and it will be decided
In
between
some war.
and it will be decided between those two. Okay. The other provinces really need to are growing their program at the moment.
Well, just a bit of background of it. Some of these provinces are actually putting a team together for the first time.
Not quite first time,
but close. Isn't it? Yeah, they haven't got the history or the depth there that's been built up yet.
Yeah. And actually, well, we should actually, to be fair, Manawa 2 also in with the shout, finishing again with Wellington, and those 3 will do the second half. We'll finish off on the south side actually. So Manawa 2 Turbos 88, Tasman 0.
Yeah, well, there isn't a lot of buying players in the women's game. That's why.
Tasman have got a very, very young team. One of the problems, so remember, whereas Mitre Cup is semi-pro, the Farah Palm Cup is totally amateur. So a lot of the players go away to university. Otago doesn't have, not Otago, sorry, Otago does. Tasman doesn't have a university. Therefore, retaining players is really difficult for them. And they understand that, and they know that their expectations are lower. They know they're not going to be competing. It's about developing players, bringing them through. If they go away, hoping they'll come back, and if they do, they do. If they don't, well, hey, they don't.
Is there anything stopping like provinces, paying a player, to get them in?
Yes, because these are all. I believe, I haven't gone around and checked every single one, but I think they're all community teams.
And that would be the one of the question I think that was on Twitter about the 23 versus 22.
So the community teams means they get funding from things like Sport Waikato, Sport Otago, whatever.
Pokie machines.
And pokie machines. And that means all the sponsors that are on those jerseys, that money does not go to the team or the players. That money goes into the central pot for the province to cover all their rugby pieces. One of those pieces is the community team, but that community team is also funded by that. So it's not the same stuff as the men, where the men is a professional team, where the sponsors pay for basically the team. They don't pay for the other activities that the provincial unions do. So yeah, no, there is definitely not funds. They're not allowed to go in and buy players. So no, that's not going to happen.
Yes.
Between those 3 in the southern one, what's happened this year, and the reason we're getting these blowouts is that previously there's been a premiership and a championship, and this year it's gone north and south, basically to save costs on transport because of COVID, and so there's, depending on who you talk to, it depends on whether they're going to revert back or not, whether they should revert back or not. But yeah, there's basically a lot of very young programs. Last year, Canterbury had a scrum coach, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And I asked him, I asked the head coach, "Where do you find money for that?" He goes, "Oh, it's a volunteer, like we all are." The head coach for Canterbury was a volunteer, right? Not now. They probably got a Ashwin stop it. He probably has a women's development coach, a women's development role within. So look, there are women
to build the game.
And part of that is running the team basically, but they're not full time Farah Palm Cup coaches. That's a very much part time of their main job. There just isn't the money to do it. So they're very young programs that need time to grow. Some of them are growing quicker than others. Look at Northland, for example, who put up a very good fight against Auckland last weekend. having only been around for 2 years. Going into the Northern Division then, Taranaki. Massive congratulations to Taranaki. It's their 3rd season and it's their first ever win. So congratulations, Taranaki, who beat North Harbour 32-29.
Oh,
close. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Look, to be honest,
Good game.
these 2 teams will lose all their other games. Okay? Let's be,
but
as I say, this was their cup final.
Yeah, and like you said before, it's like, I mean, if they did the championship and premiership, they would be playing teams of that level, and they'd be having really good competitive games.
Yeah, these are 2 championship teams, but up against some of the Auckland, Auckland counties, and Waikato, 3 really long-term established programs that win the Farah Palmer Cup or challenging for the Farah Palmer Cup on a regular basis. Yeah. So I say they are going to get beaten by all the other teams, but congratulations to Taranaki. This is your first ever win in. It's the 3rd year in existence. They've lost all the games in the last 2 years. The first win. Well done, girls. Fantastic weekend for Taranaki. Got their own fully shield and their first ever Farah Palmer Cup.
Get
win.
on it.
Brilliant.
Take Taranaki. Big party time in New Plymouth this weekend.
Yes. Absolutely. There is not a sober person. Taranaki, New Plymouth.
Who's going to milk the cows?
No one's working Monday morning. Moving on then to the game I caught the last 10 minutes of, which was Bay of Plenty versus Waikato. Finished 10-21 to Waikato in this one. Again, Bay of Plenty, one of the I think they're a Premiership team from last year, but one of the lower Premiership teams. Waikato long-term and got a couple of Blackburn 7s in them. To be fair, I've gone blank. Kelly Brazier has joined the Bay of Plenty, and they also have Les. Got an interview with her. Oh, gone blank. Anyway, she's the captain of the team. Thank you so much to her because her baby needed feeding, and she stood out for stayed out for an extra 2 minutes to do the interview before going inside. So thank you for her time and for that. So yeah, Waikato. Yeah, I say I only saw the last 10 minutes of this, but Waikato did say afterwards they were targeting this game because I think it's the Chiefs Cup. This one.
Yeah, it was the Chiefs Cup. I'm surprised that Bay of Plenty haven't really targeted the Women's Sevens program because you're looking at like Portia Woodman and Tyler Nathan Wong. I know Tyler Nathan Wong lives down in Tauranga. So you'd sort of think, hey, you'd be a good person to target to say coming into the stick around because she's got a house down there, lives down there, playing Bay of Plenty.
No, she's buying a house down there.
She's building a house down there.
Building a house, no, sorry. I think
it's built. I thought it was built. Was it not built? Oh, yeah.
Don't know. Tyler, if you want to
let us know.
But
you stayed with my cousin.
Look, clearly the Blackburn Sevens have been spread around the provinces, not all been allowed to just join Bay of Plenty en masse. Otherwise, they would just wipe the board. Let's be blunt.
No, I won't say that because it's Sevens players. When you look at their counties team's doing awesomely well because they've got a forward pack that delivers ball and goes forward. And
also has Sevens player playing for them as well.
Oh, yeah, sure does. Yeah. But the ball that they're getting from their forward pack.
But the difference is the Farah Palmer, the Blackburns as a whole, the Blackburn Sevens players are full-time professional athletes. They get to train the whole time. Yeah. A lot of these girls don't get to do that. They're having to work and they just train Tuesday, Thursday nights rugby, and they have to fit in their own gym sessions.
And feed the baby.
And well, yes. Except she's a Blackburn actually.
Oh, she? Yes. Oh.
So she is, yeah. So she does get paid. But that's why they've had to spread out professional athletes. Otherwise, professional athletes just because they've just got more training, they would just run. They would be good teams. That game there. Then today, cracking game between Auckland Storm and Counties Manukau. Finished 22-36. Two of the teams that are going to be at the pointy end of this competition.
Counties, man.
Counties are going to be definitely going to be at the pointy end. Yeah. Yes. You've got to say, Chan Shepherd had a good interview with him. Haven't put it up yet, but that'll go up tomorrow. The head coach of Counties. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to interview him else in this game. But after a big win over Harbour. They had the week off, then
Right.
week, then came into this game because they're big and obviously targeting this game against an Auckland team that have beaten Naki and North Harbour. Sorry, Naki and Northern, not North Harbour. So they knew this was going to be a key game for their campaign, and just the power at the game line was the big thing for counties. If you're getting over that game, well, not just forward back down, they're a very powerful 12 and 13 as well. If you just keep getting over that game line, getting front football, it's going to tell in the end. And that's really what happened. It was 5-12 at half time. Auckland just keeping themselves in it, but in the second half, counties pulled away. I say, just that extra power really wearing down Auckland. Auckland also just dropped the ball way too many times. Handling errors is a big thing in this game for them. Really let them down. Probably why Richie wasn't going to come out and talk. He was probably very angry with that. To be honest, if they kept hold of the ball, they would have been in this. But by dropping it, what they're doing, they're getting into scrums, and we're talking about against two powerful packs. It was a real fight, but obviously, again, all the extra tackling the Auckland girls having to do, they're going to get worn down by that. And they did get worn. They got worn down. Counties went on to win it, even with a disallowed try as well. So congratulations to counties. We're probably looking at counties versus Canterbury final is at this moment. But I say Auckland, Waikato, Wellington, and Manawatu will dispute.
Oh, Manawatu, you reckon?
They're putting a.
They've had good teams in the past, but I'm just wondering. At the end of the day, you still need to have a good forward pack. That's the thing. That's always going to be a question, right?
Maybe they will get overpowered trying to look at their other results. So they lost 10-36 to Canterbury, and then they beat Tasman 88-0.
That's it. That's today.
Today, yeah. So maybe I say they'll be thereabouts rather than there. I think. That's how I see things panning out, folks. Good to see the All Blacks select head coach was at the Bay of Plenty versus Waikato game, and talking to all the girls afterwards, having chats with different players. So look, they're getting around the traps, talking to the players, which is good to see.
They're going to select three internal teams, something like that. Yeah,
but look, they could do it all off TV and streaming if they wanted to. But it's good to see them there talking to players involved and hopefully keeping the players up to date with what they need to do to try and be in contention, etc.
Right.
That's that communication. I think it's good to see. I wasn't listening in on the conversation,
sure,
obviously, but you've got to assume that's what was going on.
How are you going to break a Watergate scandal if you don't get involved in these conversations?
Dear me. Thank you very much, Ashwin.
That's all right. It's all right.
Don't forget, folks, please do share the show. Check out all those post-match interviews. There are some crackers in there, and there are some not quite so good ones. But hey, that's just how it goes. Please don't forget you can listen to us on the go. Just download the podcast. New Zealand Radio Sport. New Zealand Sport Radio. New Zealand Sport Radio. Jeez, it's the end of a long weekend. New Zealand Sport Radio. Just check it out. iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those wonderful podcatchers.
He means it's a long weekend, been a big weekend for him, not a long weekend to go to work tomorrow.
Yes, sorry. Cheers, folks. Hope you had a good weekend.